Okay, respiratory system. The lungs. Uh, the lungs are infoldings of the body surface. Let me do this with red. Infoldings of the body surface. They work in conjunction with a circulatory system to deliver gases. Okay, they work in conjunction, so that means they work together. It works together with a circulatory system. They both depend on each other. Okay, to deliver gases, for example, oxygen, carbon dioxide. And again, it's supposed to be working together because without one, you don't have the other one, right? You can have gases inside your body, but if you don't have a circulatory system, well, how do you transport these gases, right? Okay, so I want you guys to know this too. This is going to be important. This is going to be kind of the pathway of the very generic statement of the pathway of air. Air starts at the pharynx, then it goes to the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, the bronchioles, and the alveoli. What are alveoli? Alveoli is where gas exchange is going to occur. Okay, so where does gas exchange occur in the lungs? In the alveoli, not in the bronchi, not in the trachea. Okay, not in the bronchioles. It occurs in the alveoli. They're going to be very, very thin, and I will show you a picture of them in a second. Cilia and mucus are going to line the epithelium of the ducts. So the whole respiratory system, especially the trachea and the bronchi, for example, they have something called a mucus escalator. And what this is pretty much a mucus, okay? So the mucus is going to be sticky, right? It's going to be like sticky stuff. So it's going to be sticking to particles, like for example, to pathogens or to things like bacteria or things like that, you know, or smoke or whatever. It's going to be sticking that stuff. And then the cilia, okay, is going to kind of serve as the escalator, kind of bringing things upwards, outside or away from the respiratory tract, okay, away from your lungs. So this mucus escalator is going to clean the respiratory system and allow particles to be sent to the esophagus. So after that, so if you know, to trap all these particles, and then what do? How do you get rid of them? Well, you either swallow them into your stomach or you just spit them out. Okay, gas exchange occurs in the alveoli. Okay, what are alveoli? There are air sacs at the tip of the bronchioles. Again, here, these air sacs, these alveoli, is where gas exchange occurs. And make sure you know this because this is going to be the direction of this gas exchange. Oxygen diffuses from the alveoli into the capillaries. Okay, and carbon dioxide diffuses from the capillaries into the alveoli. Make sure you know that. Okay, make sure you know that direction. And we'll review it a little bit later in another slide. Okay, so this is a picture of your respiratory tract. You know, everything starts here at the nasal cavity. Here's where you breathe in some air. Then it goes through the pharynx. Then it goes through the larynx. Then it goes through the trachea, the lungs, okay, but more specifically the bronchus, the bronchi, and the bronchiole, okay, and then finally arrives on the alveoli. The alveoli, as you can see, they're very, very, very thin sacs. They're very thin, and that's great because for gases to be able to diffuse into the blood, okay, it has to go through very thin layers of cells, okay, and also for gases to leave the vessels and into the air sacs, they have to cross very thin layers, okay. So that makes sense. Okay. What else I want to say about this? Oh yeah, the alveoli. The alveoli are pretty much there's this connection, there's this collaboration between the alveoli, which are part of the lungs, and the capillaries, which are part of your cardiovascular system that we talked about early on. See how the alveoli are all surrounded by capillaries. Okay, that's because this is where gas exchange will occur. Okay, this is so ventilation, or the act of breathing. So when you're breathing, we say that you're actually ventilating. Okay, what happens is this, and I'm just going to say this really fast. I want to focus mostly on my next slide, which is going to expose this and other stuff as well. So the rib cage expands as the rib muscles contract, and the diaphragm contracts. This is during inhalation. So during inhalation, what's happening is this, and make sure you understand this for my next slide. What happens here is we are increasing the volume of the lungs, okay? We want more volume inside. I'll tell you why that makes a difference. During exhalation, the opposite happens. Diaphragm relaxes, that means it moves up, and the rib cage is going to get smaller because the rib muscles are going to relax, okay? So pretty much during inhalation, rib cage gets bigger. During exhalation, rib cage gets smaller, okay? And that is going to be very, very important when we talk about volumes. All right, now this looks easy, but it's not. When you're talking about breathing or ventilating, okay, it's not as easy as saying, okay, the muscles contract, the muscles relax. Yeah, but what's the point of it? How is air drawn into the lungs? That's the question. How do we get air inside? Well, it happens that air, okay, this is key. Air is going to move from areas of high to low pressure. Make sure you understand that, because that's how air moves. Okay, not just moving because well, it is because we're making the rib cage bigger and smaller. Yeah, but the whole point is you're gonna be seeing changes in pressure, and that's what moves air in and out. Okay, so air moves from areas of high to low air pressure. Okay, you also have to know this big time relationship, the relationship between volume and pressure. When volume increases, pressure decreases. Make sure you know that. This is critical, okay? As volume increases, pressure decreases, okay? As volume decreases, pressure increases. It's always an inverse relationship, okay? But they come hand in hand. Let me give you an example, okay? It's the end of the semester, which it is, and you are going to travel. Okay, you're going to go to Cancun. Okay, you're going to go to the beach. You are tired of me, and well, not of me, of school. You can never get tired of me. And you are going to pack, right? So you're going to bring a bag to traveling bag, so you can actually be able to put your clothes in, right? So and by the way, this is going to be one of my male students, okay, with his bag. I don't do female students because I would have to draw 4 of these, okay, for a 3-day vacation. Wait, was that a joke? Okay, so this is a traveling bag, a male traveling bag. Because again, I don't want to draw more than one. And what's going to go inside? Well, my clothes, right? My shirts, my pants, my shoes. Okay, my shoes, my socks, all of this nice stuff, right? Anyway, well, guess what? I mean, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be a 5-day trip or 6-day trip, okay? So what's going to happen is it's going to be so packed, so much pressure inside, right, with all my clothes and all my stuff, right, that it's just going to be too big, right? Okay, so what's going to happen is this. Look at the volume. Now, what happens with my bag here is I have these really cool bags that has a zipper, okay, and it can get bigger. All right, let's make this bigger. Oh, that was too big, but anyway, you get the point. And now, guess what? My clothes are gonna be able to be, folded nicely. They're not gonna be, all wrinkled and stuff. There's gonna be space for my shoes and for my socks, right? And for my trunks, because I'm gonna go to the beach, okay? And my basketball. Anyway, you get the point, okay? But now there's more space, right? So see what happened here. What happened to the volume as we go from here to here? Didn't we make the volume bigger? Yeah, from here to here, okay, the volume increased. And because it increased, what happened to the pressure? The pressure of my clothes hold inside. The pressure probably decreased, right? Now there's more space to put my stuff in there, right? I can even add some extra stuff, right? Like my trunks and my basketball. Now let's go backwards. what if, because I'm a teacher and I don't make a lot of money. Um, I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay. What do you call the extra fees to send my bag to the bag area. So I say I'm gonna have it with me, take it as my carry-on, right? So I can fit it, so I don't have to pay extra. So what do I have to do in this case? Well, I'm gonna have to go backwards, right? Let's make this smaller. Well, what happens if I make it smaller? What happens to the volume now? Well, the volume is gonna decrease, right? There's less volume here. What happens to the pressure? Now my clothes are all crunched up, right? And it's very, it's very packed up, right? So the pressure, what happened to the pressure? Pressure increased, right? Now that's not good for my clothes, but hey, that's good for my pocket. So I'm okay with that. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? Does that make sense? Now have that in mind, because that's exactly what's happening in terms in the lungs, right? Very similar. So now let's follow with this. So what happens here is before inhalation, you're not breathing, guys. You're just not breathing. And you know what? I challenge you to do this. Check this out. Open your mouth. Don't breathe. Don't breathe. Just open your mouth. Is any air going into your lungs? I mean, think about this. There's no interference, right? I mean, if you open your mouth, you open a cavity, air can go into your mouth. Everything is open, right? Your mouth, your pharynx, your larynx, your bronchus, your bronchi, your bronchioles, your air, your alveoli. Everything is open. So how come no air is going inside? Because you have to change pressures. You have to change the gradients of pressure. That's why. Okay, so that's why this is very important with this pressure and volume changes. So you open your mouth, you don't breathe in, you don't exhale, you don't inhale, even though everything is open, no air is going in. So this is here. This is the time before inhalation. The air pressure, okay, the pressure in the air, the air pressure in the lungs, or the air pressure in the air, or the atmospheric pressure, is equal, okay, to the pressure in the lungs. Okay, pressure in the lungs. They're equal. Because they're equal, there's no changes. What does that mean? I'm going to give you just a figure, okay, in terms of pressure. Let's say 760, which is usually that's atmospheric pressure, okay, millimeters of mercury, I believe, okay. 760, that's the standard atmosphere, around 760 millimeters of mercury. Well, that is the pressure of the air. Now, what's the pressure in the lung? Well, if it's equal, it's probably going to be around 760, right? Okay, now this is, by the way, let me make a little I don't know, a little disclaimer. I am simplifying this very much. Okay, when you take another class, if you do take another higher level class, you see there's more than just one type of pressures in your lungs. But I'm not going to go into that level of detail because I just want you to know the basics. Okay, so this is not 100% accurate. This is just the most easier way to explain it for students like us who, we just want to know the basics and we're not ready to go further. Okay, we'll go further, we'll take another class. But at the end, it's kind of the same thing. It's just I'm not going to go in detail. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. All right, now, what happens during exhalation? Okay, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go here first. I'm going to go number 2 first. Maybe I should have done that. I don't know what happened here. Let's go here. Let's start inhaling. When you inhale, the diaphragm, the muscle over here, is going to contract. And if you look at my previous slide, you know that when it contracts, it goes down. Okay, the chest cavity expands. Okay, gets downward and outward. That means it's just going to get bigger. The chest cavity, the muscles in the chest cavity. Okay, what happens when you're doing that? You're making it bigger, right? So this increases the volume of the chest cavity and the lungs. And what did we say about that? When the volume increases, what happens to the pressure, guys? The pressure decreases. Okay, same thing with my bags, right? So because now the lung has a higher volume, it's going to have a lower pressure. Okay, and now we have 2 different pressures. Now air can come in. There you go. Now it can come in. So this reduces the air pressure inside of the lungs. We know here, lung pressure is going to be down. And the air is going to be able to travel from the outside of the body into the lungs. Why is that? Because air moves from areas of high to lower pressure. Does that make sense? Okay, since the pressure is higher, okay, in the air, okay, than in the lungs, okay, air travels inside into the lungs, okay, from high to low. Okay, now what happens when you exhale? The opposite. During exhalation, the diaphragm relaxes. And if you look at my previous slide, you know that the diaphragm relaxes, is going to go upwards. Okay, and what happens to the chest cavity? The volume also decreases, right? So the diaphragm relaxes, decreasing the volume of the chest cavity. So now the volume here decreases. Volume decreases. And what is a relationship, guys? If the volume decreases, what increases inside? The pressure. Okay. Now the pressure changes, the pressure increase in the lungs. Okay, there's a pressure increase in the lungs that forces air out of the lungs. Why? Because air moves from an area of high to low air pressure. See, higher pressure to lower pressure. That's why it's going to go out. Was that easy? I think it was easy, especially the way I explained it. I'm so good. All right. Anyway, guys, that is ventilation. And like I said, this is probably going to be a little harder than you actually thought it was going to be. And it has to do because of those changes. Okay. So make sure you understand this. Okay. Make sure you know this. Make sure you know these relationships. Make sure you know these relationships, and everything else is going to make sense. Okay. Again, air moves from an area of high to low pressures. Okay. And there's a volume. As volume increases, pressure decreases. As volume decreases, pressure increases. Okay.